bedlam all over as the tiny island in the Indian Ocean, Paginas Island, has been subject to a nuclear attack. Several experts are pointing to North Korea as one suspect. Homeland Security has raised the terror threat to red. We cannot confirm, but intelligence sources have given us unconfirmed reports that a domestic attack is imminent.
The official narrative is they've bombed Pagina.
They say the terrorist, a lot of Pagina
Paginas.
They say the terrorist, a lot of Paginas is the lone suspect in a new terror case. Anyways.
God damn it.
Well,
did you guys see this news story from today? School librarian reportedly made third graders reenact the Holocaust.
Oh, cool.
The librarian reportedly said the Holocaust happened because the Jews ruined Christmas.
Hell yeah.
Is she available for podcast appearances?
Yeah, probably very available now.
In what way would they reenact the Holocaust?
Oh, well, let me read on a little further.
Oh, please. My interest is piqued now.
A librarian at a Washington, D.C. elementary school was placed on leave after allegedly forcing a third grade class to reenact the Holocaust. She also reportedly told them that the genocide happened because the Jews ruined Christmas. The principal at Watkins Elementary School in Southeast D.C., M. Scott Berkowitz, sent an email to parents informing them of the Friday incident. One student, who is reportedly Jewish, was instructed to play the role of Adolf Hitler and told to pretend to commit suicide at the end of the lesson, according to a parent who spoke with the Post. Some students were given the role of genocidal Nazis digging graves for classmates. This included the trains, dying in gas chambers, playing Hitler, and mass graves, one parent told local station Fox 5 DC. The librarian reportedly made the comment about Jews ruining Christmas after a student asked why the Nazis carried out the Holocaust. A parent told the Washington Post, "My husband picked up our child after school and there was a lot of sobbing and crying and distress," one mother of a student in the class told Fox 5. The librarian reportedly asked students not to tell anyone about the reenactment, but they told their homeroom teacher.
What the fuck? What the
That's pretty
fuck?
much the story. Yeah.
Dude,
wild.
that's so dope. When I was in fourth grade, I was in like the gifted class, which is very embarrassing looking back. But we did a reenactment of the immigration in Ellis Island, so that was sort of like the closest experience I had in comparison to being made to reenact the third grade Holocaust.
Things are different back then.
They really were.
Would you say you were in the Genius Club, Ash?
I kind of was,
program?
honestly.
Oh.
They were definitely grooming me for
To save the world.
Solving the world's problems.
yeah. Shall we team?
Please.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut the fan off that's in the background here. It's creating some white
Sure.
noise. I'll be right back.
Hey, shut the Omicron off while you're at it.
Yeah,
While
please.
you're up. Sorry,
All right.
1 second.
Okay.
I think, pretty sure I'm okay. A pop-up just showed up that says my list of audio devices changed.
Huh.
But it's still recording fine.
And you're seeing sound waves when you talk?
Yeah, everything looks good. I just
Okay.
can't hear the playback, so I don't know if like the quality changed, but
Yeah, it's probably
should be
fine.
okay.
It's
Yeah.
probably fine. You also sound really good in the Zoom, so we'll have your Zoom as a backup if possible.
Okay, great.
I'm sure you'll figure it out, Julian. You do have an IQ of 229.
That's true. It's because I took that stupid Myers-Briggs test for work and I leaked the
I've assembled all of the ENTPs in a room together. Okay, let's start the show.
Actually, can we pause for just 1 second?
Okay.
I'm just gonna get a drink real quick.
Yeah.
There's a version of the poster for this movie that just has like a big stamp across it that says "Prove God exists."
Awesome.
That's so fucking
it's
sick,
bold.
man. This movie rocks.
It really does. I took, this is the most notes I've ever taken for a movie we've covered, like by a lot.
That's good. I didn't take any, so
I did an in between. I wrote down several of my favorite quotes, but didn't elaborate on a lot of them.
there were a couple of like honestly. the movie held together well enough for what it was doing. Or I should have just saved this for the show.
Yeah, we have to. We're gonna need everything we can get.
I am.
Say it's late.
I am officially ready.
Okay. Let's start the show. Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. I'm Ash. I'm here with my co-hosts,
Scott.
And the most dangerous Mensa member alive, Julian.
That's right. We've assembled a team of the sharpest, most advanced podcasters in all of the industry in order to do one thing: prove that God exists. I'm Ash. I'm sort of a noble terrorist type. My friend Scott is a projectionist with a heart of gold. Julian over here, a very, very dangerous, very dangerous writer, actor, one of those double threats. With us today, a very special guest with an IQ of 229, a seminary student with, I don't know, it's Trans Regret Snoopy. Welcome, Snoopy.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, really good. So nice to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, this was fun subject matter.
It really was. Honestly, one of my favorite films we've ever watched for the show. So I'm very glad to have you back on. Earlier, I want to say maybe close to a year ago at this point, but I could be wrong. We had Snoopy on to discuss The Secrets of Jonathan Sperry, which is another one of our, we consider an absolute classic in the genre. But for everyone who may not have heard that or may not be familiar with your show, Snoopy, would you please take a moment to reintroduce yourself and let the people know about your show?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a surfing pizza delivery guy, and I do a Bible podcast called Trans Regret Snoopy Presents the Bible. I mostly engage with kind of all kinds of people from all different walks of life and faith backgrounds, and we talk about scripture together. And last week I had a really fascinating guest on named Xavier Rotnowski, who has a Jewish background, and we had a sort of sprawling, wide-ranging conversation about the nature of God and faith. And if any of that sounds even remotely interesting to you, then you should check the show out.
Yeah, we love Xavier, a good friend of ours. And love your show, Snoopy. I mean, full disclosure, I am on Team Snoopy. I actually produced the show along with producing Boys Bible Study. So it's a show that's very close to my heart as well. But I just think you have some of the most interesting discussions. It's always a pleasure to listen to your episodes every week as I'm editing them. So anyone listening who likes like a different kind of Christian perspective, please check out Trans Regret Snoopy Presents the Bible. So, as I said, we brought you on this episode for a very special reason, and that is to, of course, solve all of the world's problems. We have an hour. We must get to 1,000 points. Our discussion must ring true. We must be racking up those points. And if we reach 1,000 by the end of this episode, then we will not systematically hunt down and kill all of our listeners.
All of you have until 6 a.m. to find the answers to the world's problems. You must score over 1,000 points. By 6 a.m., if you score less than 1,000, all of you in this room will go up in the explosion. Okay?
Back to work.
Sounds like a deal?
Yeah, I'm a little confused as to how the point system works, but maybe we'll go over that.
Yeah.
Or maybe the movie will skip it entirely.
Yeah, let's go over that. Let's try to get to the bottom of that.
Big Whose Line Is It Anyway influences on this movie.
Yeah, I would say like my one sentence plot summary is, lonely terrorist forces strangers to play Whose Line Is It Anyway with him over Zoom call. just the briefest of starting descriptions, so we can all just like jump right into the discussion because there's quite a lot to talk about. The Genius Club, 2006 movie, about a room full of geniuses assembled by a terrorist for the purpose of having an intelligent debate about questions of God and morality. And if their discussion isn't good enough, he's going to press a button that detonates a nuclear bomb.
In Washington, D.C.
In Washington, D.C. So that being the essential premise of the movie, where should we start? Should we start by talking about some of the personnel as we usually do? I'm trying to think of a good way in. What do you think?
Well, we got a Baldwin in there.
I was just going to bring up there's interesting choices in the casting of this film.
Yeah, let's start with that. Yeah, so front and center, Stephen Baldwin. You know you're working with a solid D movie if you've got Stephen Baldwin in the cast. Have we encountered him yet in our show officially?
He played like an FBI agent in that movie with Ja Rule. I'm blanking on the name. I'm in love with the church girl.
He's also in that movie. Now, we haven't watched it for the show, but I know he's in that Christian movie God's Club.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with The Genius Club.
Yeah, which we're going to have to watch that soon now. I mean, that's too much crossover right there.
Right. Yeah, I'm very intrigued. But I mean, we love this type of actor on Boys Bible Study. I can think of a couple people who fit this mold, but like this is I call them like the mercenary types. Like they will be in your movie.
This was 10 years after Stephen Baldwin's appearance in Boredom. But he looks about 30 years older in this movie than he does in Boredom.
Yeah. Also, like, what age was he supposed to be? I found like a very interesting, like mental game I was playing while watching this movie because Stephen plays the character of Rory Johnson. Rory in this movie is depicted as being one of the smartest people in the United States, if not the world. I believe he has an IQ of 229. He also rides a longboard around everywhere, and he's a pizza delivery guy. But he can play chess.
He's also a mouth breather.
Like literally this whole movie.
Like
yes.
his mouth is open the entire film.
Yeah.
You want to know where Stephen Baldwin's head was at when this movie was being made? First off, I did not know that his daughter was married to Justin Bieber.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Second, just perusing his personal life on Wikipedia. Yeah. In 2006, the same year this movie came out, Baldwin got a tattoo on his left shoulder of the initials HM for Hannah Montana. He got the tattoo after making a pact with Miley Cyrus that he would be allowed to cameo on the show if he had the initials tattooed on him. He revealed the tattoo to Cyrus at a book signing in Nashville. He was never given the opportunity to appear on the show and has since said that he regrets getting the tattoo.
Jesus Christ.
Can't imagine why.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Man, also like I don't know the exact circumstances, but just like the mental image of he revealed it to her at a book signing.
Right.
Just makes me wonder like which side of the table he was on.
He was like waiting in line for an hour. It was like, what do you want me to sign? I was like, look, I got it. I got the tattoo.
Right.
That's brutal.
The other, like central figure in this film, like I would say the chemistry of these two actors, the sheer like charisma, the sheer, what's the word, gravitas that they bring to the screen, like really elevates Genius Club to the next level. On the good guy side, Stephen Baldwin playing the terrorist with a heart of gold. We have in probably his finest form ever on screen, Tom Sizemore. What do we have to say about Tom in this one? He's quite a recurring saint in our canon.
It felt to me like Tom was using about 6 different kinds of accents throughout the movie.
Yeah.
He would bounce between different inflections and accents, and it was driving me a little crazy.
Yeah, he most reminded me. The whole movie I was trying to pinpoint what he reminded me of, and I realized it was Beetlejuice. Like he was giving me like severe Beetlejuice vibes. Like
I was getting like Sam Kinison as like a Metal Gear Solid villain.
The man's got range.
I was getting some combo of Anthony Hopkins and Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
This is called range. Like people don't act like this anymore.
Maybe never before.
Yeah,
maybe never again.
Before and never again.
Hopefully never again.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom Sizemore plays Armand, the genius terrorist who used to work for the government before he got fired. He now has a chip on his shoulder. He somehow developed the world's most uncrackable nuclear bomb. And he, is so lonely that he needs to literally hold strangers at gunpoint to do a podcast with him. Now, could this character be somewhat appropriate for Tom Sizemore's IRL persona? Do we have any inside info on this?
Well, there's definitely some clips you can find on the internet of him just completely obliterated, rolling around on the ground. But a friend of ours used to, much like Stephen Baldwin's character, Rory, used to be a pizza delivery guy. And he delivered a pizza in downtown Los Angeles, noticed that the name on it was Tom Sizemore, and then was asked to not only bring the pizza all the way up to the guy's apartment, but bring it in and hang out with him. And he was sort of like friend hostaged indefinitely as Tom Sizemore repeatedly insisted that he play football with him and then would throw a basketball to him and instruct him to throw it in the garbage can. And I don't know, there's a lot more details of the story. This is all I know. I promise I will work hard to uncover more in the near future. But I thought that's a pretty good brief glimpse into what it's like to be Tom Sizemore. And this was like not too long after his cousin took the rap for cocaine for him.
Right.
And went to jail.
Right.
Was he just being method?
Maybe.
Like maybe preparing for a role?
Sure. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
he was practicing being an emotional terrorist so he could soon portray a real terrorist in the Genius Club. I also do want to point out that I believe that the Genius Club marks the first of at least two that I know of collaborations between Tom Sizemore and director Timothy Che. Because isn't Tom Sizemore in Suing the Devil as well? Yeah, he's one of the news commentators. That's right, and he looks pretty rough in that movie. Sizemore does, if I remember correctly. This would have been around cocaine time, I think, when that movie came out, because that was like 2011. Sure. Yeah, that's right. Director Timothy Che, who directed this film, also directed Suing the Devil, which we previously covered on the show, I think last year, with our friend Sam Sadomsky as guest. And that's a really neat one, an Australian film, another very like procedural show. This time the devil is on trial in a courtroom, and he's being sued for all the crimes he's perpetuated against humanity. So another very interesting take on the battle between good and evil. There's at least 3 more movies by him we're going to cover too. Just by Tim Che? Yeah. What are those? One I ordered immediately after watching this movie.
Can I guess what it is?
Yeah.
I'm looking at
guess
the
the
list.
3.
I'm going to guess Slamma-Jamma.
That's one.
Let's see. I'm going to guess Final: The Rapture.
No, but that looks good too.
I'm just going by titles here.
I'm curious about Interview with the Antichrist. That's one. Okay, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see that on here.
That looks good. What is Slamma-Jamma? Oh, wow, there you go. It's a basketball movie. Cool.
Epic Journey?
No, that says it's a documentary, which is
just don't blow up the bomb, please.
You have one more guess.
All right. Ash, you go.
Well, I'm intrigued by Christmas Stories as well, but we might have to save that one for next year if we do that one.
Yeah, we'll probably cover them all. Who am I kidding?
Yeah.
Everybody wins. You live this time for now.
Tim Che is like definitely one to watch. Like this film was like sincerely one of the funniest and most deranged things that I think we've covered. I would almost most compare it to the extreme outsider artwork of C-Tom and his movie The President Goes to Heaven. Like that's probably actually the film that came to mind the most when I was watching this.
Yeah, this was falls in the genre of radical centrist cinema. It feels like this was just like somebody based a movie off of a chain email from 2003.
Yeah.
That
absolutely.
Like their quote unquote like liberal friend sent them, or their friend who like was really into Dennis Miller or something.
This movie also reminded me of the movie 3 to a certain extent.
Yes.
Which was that Christian horror movie that we covered where the guy keeps like calling in and like having him have to solve riddles to like keep the next person from getting murdered.
Yes, that movie came to mind. Yeah, we covered that a couple months ago with our friend Maggie Siebert as the guest. And 3, I mean, there was actually so much in common with 3. It was another film about a seminary student was one of the heroes. And this sort of faceless killer communicating via phone, and in this case, video phone, but still. And detonating bombs, profoundly obsessed with these like moral questions. Definitely the same DNA in both films. Pretty interesting.
There were 7 of them total, all with IQs over 208. There was Jacob Chernoff, IQ 214, Dallas Theological Seminary student. Wrote the best-selling book on God in his second year in school.
Oh, I also want to point out, just speaking of the seminary student and like other personnel here, there was a fact I learned on the wiki for this movie on the Wikipedia page. Hold on, I lost my tab. Let me pull it back up. Great, I found it. Both director Tim Che, who is a Christian, and the producers believed it was important that, in quotation marks, real Christian play the part of Jacob Chernoff. Hence the selection of Jacob Bonema, a Christian like his father. Now, his father was the producer of this film, apparently. It was one of the producers is a guy named Arch Bonema, and his son played the seminary student, and this is the only movie that guy has ever been in.
Yeah, that makes sense, because he is probably the worst actor of the smartest people in the room.
I also just did a Google search on Arch Bonema, and from 2012, here's an article, and this is how it starts. Did a businessman from Texas really find Noah's Ark? Arch Bonema said he wanted to present the evidence and let audience members decide for themselves Tuesday evening at East Central University's Fine Arts Center.
Call me Ark Bonema.
Yeah.
Not only did he find Noah's Ark, or say he found Noah's Ark, but he founded a energy trading scheme that fleeced like a bunch of senators in Texas.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Wow.
If you look up, I think it's like Arch, but I don't know if that's how I pronounce the last name or not. But there was 2 state GOP candidates fell victim to energy trading scheme, and here's his picture. He looks just like he does in this movie because he plays the chief of staff, the president's chief of staff in the movie as well. And it says 4 Texas lawmakers, including 2 now running for statewide office, bought fledgling technology company, so on and so forth. Basically, they got taken and lost millions of dollars.
Jesus
wow.
Christ.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And, he was also a producer of a Christian film.
Wow.
A producer of lies.
And you know what? I thought he was pretty well cast as the chief of staff. He looked like a chief of staff to me.
Wait,
Yeah.
So Arch was in this movie?
Yes.
I did not fully put that together. That's amazing. Wow. Well, there you go. We love you, Arch. I'm so glad we found him.
Pedigree going on here.
Yeah. he's a really intriguing figure. I'm actually pleasantly surprised by the real intrigue happening behind the scenes here. Very cool. But this is a really big cast, and it's one of those very tedious movies where we're supposed to sort of like meet every individual character and find out how they're all a piece to the puzzle, which certain type of genre filmmakers seem like obsessed with that conceit. And it's I find it to be more often than not extremely tedious. Scott, do you remember that film that you and our friend Suki screened the one time, that Steve Bannon produced film?
You know what? I was thinking about that today as well. The Chaos Experiment with Eric Roberts.
The Chaos Experiments. That's it. Would you briefly describe the plot of that film? Because I think we're landing on like a type of movie. Like there's like an archetype of movie here.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Eric Roberts plays the bad guy, a similar type of character, honestly, and he traps a specific group of people in a steam room, like in a sauna, basically, and they're just locked in there indefinitely trying to figure stuff out. And he is similarly playing games with them as well. And that's pretty much the whole thing, because they're just trapped in that room for almost the entirety of the movie.
Yeah, isn't he like an evil climate change scientist, basically? Like, isn't there sort of like an anti-climate change bent?
Right. Yeah, I couldn't remember what the point was, because you just feel like you're stuck with them for so long.
Yeah, you really do. And it's also Val Kilmer plays a prominent role in that one too, which is amazing. I remember that. But yeah, what's this type of movie? This type of movie where there's like an evil genius who, gets to call all of the shots in assembling this little like theatrical thing. And he just finds the most tedious people to bring together to like play Dollhouse with. And we all have to watch it.
It's a Joker movie.
Sort of.
They're kind of like Saw derivatives.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But minus like, I mean, the first Saw is good and has like a interesting bent to it. But this is more like people who saw Saw 2. They saw, then they saw 2 too. And they thought that Saw 2 was the better one. And they didn't like the violence. So it was just like everybody get together and problem solve. But the moral of the story is we'll never get along.
Yeah.
It feels to me like there could have been 2 or 3 fewer geniuses in that room.
Yeah.
Like there was just too many characters vying for attention, and there was a lot of overlap in their stories, and it all felt like they were stretching it or spreading it way too thin.
Yeah, did the president count as a genius?
No, never.
That was like,
has the president ever counted as a genius?
No, and don't even get me started on Congress.
Well,
but because the president was like pretty redundant of a character for like the Yale capitalist guy and the president were kind of just saying the same things.
Horrible character.
Yeah, I felt like that was the most accurate one. Was the Yale capital or the Yale business grad?
Yeah, that was actually pretty good satire. I dug that. Yeah, actually, I wanted to know, Snoopy, who was your favorite and least favorite genius?
Oh gosh, so many to choose from.
I know.
I mean, as much as I was making fun of him being a mouth breather and generally just being ridiculous, Stephen Baldwin's character was really one of the only ones that felt like there was any actual intrigue about or depth to. Depth might be too generous of a word. Least favorite though, that's tough. I think probably the Yale guy, Professor Lee. That was his name, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that he was bad at what he was doing, but the character I found to be so unlikable.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah, maybe a good job with that. But yeah, Professor Lee was this guy who he wrote the book on capitalism. He proved that capitalism was the best system in the world.
Oh, he played Wu in The Big Lebowski.
Oh,
really?
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, apparently.
Cool. I mean, some of the people in this, some of the other cast members were not necessarily people I'd heard of, but yeah, I clicked on their IMDb's and, they were in tons of shows, had pretty big careers. Although they might not be household names, but one thing that was really funny about Stephen Baldwin's character, one of my favorite lines in the movie, is when he says an aside that is just him explaining his character. He says, "This is great. 1 minute I'm delivering pizzas. Next minute I'm trying to solve the problems of the world." It's like yeah, man, like that is the movie, you know?
That's the plot.
Literally the plot line for the film.
I think that's incredible. Like writing like that was peppered all throughout the Genius Club.
There was an amazing back and forth when the genius that had terminal brain cancer lays out like pours her heart out talking about God and forgiveness and all of this stuff. And then the next line is Stephen Baldwin just going, "Do you want to know why I'm a pizza delivery guy?"
So much of this dialogue was people just like not even responding to the person who spoke right before them, but just saying who they were.
Yes.
Like somebody saying like, "Oh, we gotta, greed is a problem." And then somebody being like, "How can you say that? I'm a casino owner. I've built my career from the ground up." And then somebody else responding like, "You don't know what it's like to be a baseball player like me."
Well, that's what's so funny with this scenario where everybody's just stuck in a gray room together for an entire movie, because like normally, like in most movies, and I truly mean like 99.9% of movies, you would see the casino owner like at a casino and there would be some character development just in how you see or interact at the casino.
Right.
And like here, it's up to just them speaking to give all of the character development.
Just a casino owner, that's all!
Mr. President! Next question.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely like part of what makes this whole thing so tedious. I've got to say the casino owner was maybe my favorite character in the movie for a couple reasons. Like one, I mean, I just thought that like that was a brilliant stroke of writing. Like just everything they introduced about her character made me so happy. Like she was like, "I'm the 300th richest person in the United States, and my goal, I want to be in the top 200. Yeah. And it's like, okay. And also like, that's what she like did with her genius IQ. And the other thing that was so amazing was that for the first like 45 minutes of the movie, she was just like, she would say something and all the other, she would be like, "I can't believe we're here on Christmas." And all the other characters would just be like, "You stupid bitch." like she was really just like piled on like as being like the symbol of moral rot in the whole movie, even though like they were trying to do this thing where like each genius had their demons and like, they stood for some things that were right and other things that they were hypocritical about. But everyone pretty much like universally agreed that she was like a giant bitch. And I thought that was like really funny.
Ash, you said something in passing there. You mentioned that this takes place on Christmas Eve and Christmas.
Right.
That is the reason why we picked this movie. But them mentioning that is literally all there is with Christmas and the whole thing.
Blew right past that detail.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not a consequential detail at all. It kind of makes you wonder why they would. What the hell was the point?
Yeah, well, maybe just to get suckers like me, thank God. Lord works in mysterious ways because I love this movie. Although, you know, I might have seen it sooner if it didn't say anything about Christmas.
That's a good point. Yeah. If you market your movie as a Christmas movie, you might, watch it once. What if you put it on your watch later list, then you just fucking forget about it when the year goes on. But hey, I mean, some great timeless movies were set on Christmas too. So
yeah, were they trying to do like the Die Hard thing where people go, it's a Christmas movie?
I think they were. I literally think that like that was part of it.
Yeah, this is what you call a Christmas adjacent movie. And that, yes, it takes place on Christmas, has some things here and there that kind of have to do with Christmas, but ultimately could have happened on any day.
Right.
Wouldn't it be snowing in Washington, D.C. on December 24th?
Yeah.
Probably.
Also, like Stephen Baldwin's character when he's playing chess is very clearly in like L.A.
Right.
There's like palm trees in the background.
They got him from all over the country, though, right? I
guess
just
that's
assumed
true.
they like flew him in some secret plane that gets you there in 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, they technically brought these people in from all over the country, and they would have had to have done that very quickly. But this movie was always taking liberties with the facts, quote unquote. Like, first of all, because this was a movie where, okay, just to back up a second, this is one of my favorite type of movies where the plot is so bad that the writer has to make the characters ask the questions of why the plot is so bad just so someone else can explain it to them. I really love that type of movie. Like when they're like, so what do you mean we have to get 1,000 points? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like at one point, Stephen Baldwin is like, you can't be the judge and the jury. And it's like, well, yeah, that's a really good point. Why did you write this character that way? But also like, there was a moment when they were like, if you escape, it wouldn't matter if you drove a Porsche away from here because like there's no way you'd escape the blast radius. But then like at the end of the movie when he lets Stephen Baldwin go because he like solved a riddle correctly and it's like, all right, you can go, and he like picks up his skateboard. It's like, dude, you're gonna detonate the bomb in an hour. Like I thought you just said
got a
that
couple minutes.
Yeah, no, it's like
Get
literally
out.
supposed to be minutes away. And they're like, you can go. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, that was funny though too that he specifically mentioned a Porsche. He's like, you couldn't even get away in a Porsche. I was like, what is that? The fastest car? Like it's definitely not. Like I'm not a car person. That's definitely not the fastest car. Why did you think to say that?
Not a hot wire car. But it wouldn't matter. By the time he saw us gone, he would just detonate the bomb. Even a Porsche wouldn't be fast enough.
Maybe it was product placement. Maybe it paid for the movie. I don't know.
Well, I think it's very Darman in that like the Porsche is like we all recognize it as a symbol of like luxury. I think it was supposed to be some sort of statement on like money, like, hey, business lady, you could drive a Porsche out of here and it wouldn't matter. What were some of our favorite like topics discussed in the Genius Club? Because like this is a movie that really
These questions
asked the hard-hitting questions. Like what were some of our favorite questions asked, and like how did we think that the movie, what sort of agenda was it trying to put forth?
Yeah, so basically Tom Sizemore would say like, answer this question. You only have so much time to answer this question, then either give or take away an arbitrary amount of points according to that question, and they needed to get to 1,000 to keep the bomb from blowing up, or to get the password to turn it off themselves, I guess.
And the questions ranged from why does war exist, or what was it? Why will war never go away?
I think the first question of the movie was, is war a pointless waste of human life?
Right.
I think that was the first question. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. To sort of why is there no cure for cancer? To a man with hiccups walks into the bar and the bartender fires a gun at him. So they're all over the place. I actually found a list of questions that were cut from the movie.
No.
Yeah. So a couple of these is how come they don't make the whole plane out of the black box? Why do we drive on the parkway and park in the driveway? How many Polish people does it take to screw in a light bulb? And why do they call it jumbo shrimp?
Wait, actually, that part would have really been good if they like asked the Polish joke, because someone would have been like, "Now listen, I made my fortune at the pierogi factory."
I thought the like most weak possible attempt at like critiquing capitalism was a hilarious like touch, because there was literally no point to it whatsoever. They never reached any kind of conclusion. They just like brought up how capitalism has some bad things about it, but then they're like, well, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Especially considering the like voice for capitalism, the Yale business professor or whatever he was, was he was a graduate or was he a professor?
I think he was a professor.
Okay, yeah. How his like answer to why is there like, or his answer to the question, why does world hunger exist or whatever, he said something like poverty causes food shortages because poor people have more kids to have more breadwinners.
Yep.
Which is like such a funny idea and makes such perfect sense coming from somebody who graduated from an Ivy League economics school.
That whole discussion was hilarious because like at that point it was getting to the movie where like we had already been introduced to the point system. So like, you know, he didn't have to comment. Tom Sizemore didn't have to comment on it every time. So we would just see like someone say something and then the number would go up like arbitrarily. So at that point in the movie, like someone was like, what should we do to solve world hunger? And someone was like, we need to neuter the poor people. And then it was like, ding, ding, ding. And then like 30 points got added to the thing. I was like, what the fuck?
What do we do about world hunger? Discuss, please.
We need to increase our giving of food.
Wrong answer! Professor, don't throw out the stupid little answers that the mediocre minds give. We're beyond the subliminal stock answers we hear on television.
We neuter dogs. We should just try to start neutering people.
Come on, man.
This movie was written by like your coworker who thinks he's a genius. It had very message board. It had very like message border energy.
It's somebody in their adult years just discovered Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
And George Carlin, and this is their like interpretation of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It just the way that it waffled between discussions of like war and politics and then like the riddle about a guy who's riding a horse named Friday. The way the jumping back and forth, it just felt so bizarre to me. Also, this is a total side note, but given how like basic it seems like the production of this movie probably was, why did the audio engineering suck so bad?
Oh, that's
my
so
God.
true.
Yeah, there was the scene in the park where they like EQ'd all the like ambient noise out, but it just sounded like they were speaking into like cups.
It was weird. And it looked like it was shot on HD cam. It looked like, Julian, that movie we watched recently, Bright Future. Like I thought it kind of looked like that, like HD cam style.
It was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but the volume was truly all over the place. Like I was watching it like on pretty good speakers, and the final like pull of the movie after the big plot reveal when the one FBI agent is confronting the terrorist, you know, we can reveal why at the very end. But like all of their dialogue was like 20 decibels softer than anything else in the movie up to that point. Just very confusingly all of a sudden. I noticed that too. The audio was like truly all over the place in this.
It just doesn't seem like it's a complicated thing to shoot.
No,
I'm not a filmmaker, so I take that with a grain of salt. But it seems like they should have gotten that detail right.
Well, yeah, there's like sword fights or whatever.
No.
There wasn't even a fucking explosion in this movie. Spoiler alert.
Oh, but it's good. It's good though, because everyone learns a lesson and they all become good friends and they all live happily ever after. And, you know, nothing else bad happens to them for the rest of their lives, right?
They figure out why does toner ink cost so much. So that's
the toner ink.
Big
talk about
what in
that.
the hell was that?
That was so funny.
Go ahead, Mr. President. Read the next question.
Why does toner ink cost so much? This is worth 30 points.
What does toner ink have to do with the world's problem?
What kind of question is that?
We don't have time to debate the choice of question. Answer it, please. Get her some water, please.
I am not afraid to die. Go on with your game.
That's a conversation I've had with somebody at a toner store.
Right.
Like that's just what they ramble on about if you go in there to get printer ink.
Yeah, he probably had just like had to buy more ink that morning for all his rantings that he was printing out.
Okay, so the entire rant about it made no sense because it was talking about like manufactured obsolescence for electronics.
Yeah,
but
I was waiting for them to say that term, and they never did, which is so funny because it's like there's
didn't know the word
term
obsolescence
for what they're talking about.
It was amazing.
What the hell does that have to do with printer ink, Bill?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, it's also an interesting topic, more interesting than printer ink, frankly. But it's not even. That's not what they were talking about.
So yeah, manufactured obsolescence or planned obsolescence is also how sometimes it's referred to, but never referred to by name in this movie. Is just the idea that companies will like build in sort of degrading material or like parts that break apart easily so that you will have to buy new ones. Like the idea is that like you can manufacture a car that will basically never fall apart, but then you wouldn't be making any more cars.
Right. It's like Us, because they pointed this out in what is that car racing movie we watched early on?
Let It Down, something like that.
Oh, Lay It Down.
Lay It Down, yeah.
Yeah, Lay It Down. Because they talk about planned obsolescence there, but they refer to it, but somehow in a positive way, is like,
right, yeah.
That's what God does with us. So that we start out as like awesome. Sinners automatically and then have to figure out the problem.
Yeah, also very confusing if you stop to think about it. But yeah, it's interesting to see how both movies like took that message. That is such a good point, though, Julian. They never say the words planned obsolescence in this movie. And it's like a very, I know it's kind of like a $5 word or whatever, but it's like a very common term that you would think the smartest guys on earth would probably know.
But no, it turns out all it takes to have a 200 IQ is to be able to solve riddles very quickly.
Right. But yeah, this type of like activism that the movie had was very particular to, a certain type of thinker. Like, even after you thought they got that shit out of their system, do you remember that rant toward the end that like, I almost feel like I dreamed it, but I think it was there, was when that one woman, the woman who had like asthma and kept like gasping for her inhaler, but all of a sudden toward the end, she gets like really mad and she's like, the problem with the world is car dealers. And
oh my
she was like,
oh, car dingers.
Oh, car dingers?
Yeah, like people who hit your door with their door and then drive away.
Okay, this is why I thought I dreamed it. Can you explicate this then a little bit? Because like I can imagine
if you heard dealers, then that would make even less sense than what she said.
I guess, but like, what does she say about car dingers?
Okay, so like, first of all, her using that phrase as though it's something that we all know and it's like a commonly used, that it threw me for a second, and then I heard her talking about how it's like, she's people who don't think about their actions and don't take responsibility for things they do to other people, and they're selfish. And then she uses like lazy and like some totally unrelated adjectives to describe these dingers.
People who ding your car are lazy.
Yeah, exactly. So that was her main thing, that she thinks that's the real problem in the world is people who ding your car door.
The car dinger represents humanity in all its worst form. It's the senseless, selfish, idiotic, stupid people that make life so hard for the rest of us. Who are these insensitive people who ding our doors and then disappear into the night without a note? Who are they? Can someone please do a lobotomy on all these insensitive, lazy, selfish, ignorant imbeciles? I don't understand it, but I know that's the cause of the world's problems. Now you give us our points, mister.
There is so much like pompous libertarian thought in this movie, like the line where the guy says to the doctor who's just said like there's nothing more we can do to save your wife, he just says, the rising mediocrity in this country is profound to me, doctor. And then the doctor's like, well, hold on a second. Like for some reason that line just like, there is so much like, it feels kind of like people who like say, oh, we live in idiocracy or whatever. Like people who just like walk around being like, everybody else is stupid but me.
Yeah. Remember my family member who used to say 80% of people you meet are dumber than you, and now the person says it's 90% now.
Sure.
Like, all right.
Totally.
That's a number you could say. There separately from that anecdote you brought up, Julian, Tom Sizemore's character Armand also went off on a rant about his wife having been hit by a drunk driver, which is apparently ultimately why this is all happening. And it's like talks about the greedy mortician and the uncaring, incompetent doctors and nurses. It's like the same thing again.
My wife was hit by a drunk driver. And all I saw around me were incompetent doctors, uncaring nurses, and a greedy mortician.
Oh, that was so funny. The greedy mortician was so funny.
Greedy mortician.
Like, this is just people who are like, who sit around and are just angry when they hear bad news, and they're just like, they should do something about this. They should, like, people who blame all of life's problems on a generic they who are not solving them.
Right.
Someone should make a big nuclear bomb and threaten.
I want to point out also that, Armand's wife got hit by a drunk driver. Also, Stephen Baldwin's character, Rory, his mother got hit at a gas station, and he was like, I couldn't believe how far her body flew from the site of the impact. It's like, what
oh my God, that was so funny.
That whole monologue. Also, there was so much shit that was in that same monologue that you pointed out, Snoopy, which is right after the woman who had cancer spilled her guts out, and for some reason no one reacted, and then he was like, I'm a pizza delivery guy because my mom got hit by a car, and it shows several characters in tears at his story, and then the terrorist goes, it's been a long time since words profoundly affected me. It's
oh my God, so funny. Especially knowing everything he knows about everyone else, and that was the story that put him over the edge.
Yeah,
it was the guy saying, "I can't believe how far my mom flew when she was in a car accident."
Yeah.
Also, even funnier is right before that when just the you could just clip the entire 15 minutes after Tom Sizemore asks them what do you think is the problem with the world?
Yes,
because somebody says boredom. And then Stephen Baldwin says, boredom used to give us cars and light bulbs, but now boredom is what fuels Al-Qaeda youth to blow themselves up.
Question. What is the greatest problem facing the world today?
It's boredom. Boredom is the greatest problem facing mankind today.
Good, Professor.
Seneca said to be enslaved to oneself is the heaviest of all servitude. I mean, if we get rid of all the world's problems, hunger, greed, poverty, gambling, cancer, we still have to deal with boredom.
Boredom? Back in the day, boredom is what motivated inventions like cars and planes and the telephone. Nowadays, boredom is what fuels Al-Qaeda youth to blow themselves up in the name of Allah.
Very good, Rory.
This is the political philosophy. I mean, I'm assuming that this guy, it's hard to judge because, this is a movie where, the writer puts forth a lot of ideologies, and not every one of them is the one you're supposed to be yeah, that guy's right or whatever, that guy's. But it seemed like the completely nihilistic one is the one that we're supposed to go with, because that's sort of where people go toward, not necessarily nihilistic, but the blaming, the individual, the uninspired individual for all of the world's problems is the ideology that people slowly move towards in this movie. The baseball player, at one point he says tribalism is the problem with the world, and they're getting points for these, so we have to assume they're correct,
right?
And he says tribalism is the problem with the world today. It's all my side's better than your side, my team is better than your sports team, which is, I would say, the only healthy form of tribalism would be to don't just throw people rooting for sports teams is not the cause of the world's problems, especially in like the sense of like tribalism being the problem. But the one that really bothered me was he said, like, I'm so sick of hearing about like the left versus the right. We just need to get together and solve these problems.
Yep,
so like the idea that we're supposed to get like a bunch of people are supposed to have no political leanings or beliefs and still somehow figure out all of like the world's problems.
Yeah.
Is really funny. Like how are you supposed to solve anything without having some sort of idea that falls somewhere along this political spectrum?
Right. And then that same guy says, we live in a world that's so busy fixing symptoms and trying to address the causes of things. You're like, what? That's well, how else would you fix the symptoms and address the causes of things?
Right.
I don't know what are you talking
just the
about?
like, why is there no cure for cancer? I don't know. Probably because there's like 1,000 different types of cancers, and all of them require completely different treatment.
Yeah, but that was cool that they found out that, or they brought up the fact that the president had like canceled cancer funding in the U.S.
Yeah, that was really funny.
That was super dope. And then, yeah, go on.
His apology later to the lady with the brain tumor, and he was like, "There was a bunch of stuff added on to that, but I should have still approved it." And it's like, what the fuck else was attached to that bill? Like, I still want to know what it was that made you cancel cancer funding.
I love when he was like, "I now know that was a mistake."
I'd like you to know that I never wanted to cancel that cancer research bill. There were riders attached to it that would have caused so many. I realize now that I made a mistake.
But also, like, that's the very, like, you know, C-Tom approach to, you know, C-Tom, one of our favorite directors, where, you know, like a character, and also like a lot of outsider, you know, like insane people who make movies do shit like this, where, you know, like our favorite Neil Breen, well, it'll be like a banker looking at the camera and saying, I love charging interest rates that are too high for people to pay back, you know, like, so I love like just this like hyper oversimplified idea of how like politics in any system work, where like Congress gives the president a bill that says, we would like to fund cancer research. And the president is like, no.
Yeah.
It's just like, I love that idea of like what a bill is, you know.
When he was talking about that, is that when he said, I'm just another human being trying to figure it all out?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was so funny. And it was right after the guy was like, we need to get you out of here, like to a safe location. And he just points at a picture of the Twin Towers. Yeah. And says, this is why I can't leave. Like they just have a big poster of the Twin Towers in this bunker.
In this bunker with a nuclear bomb in it.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of the Twin Towers, I was watching Sesame Street this morning. Yeah, as I do. And there was a girl with her dad flying in like a prop plane, and they're like, it's like the plane's like kind of wobbly, and then they're like, oh, look, a bridge. And they're like, oh, look, what's that? And then it shows like basically the same angle that everyone's seen of the plane just flying at the towers.
Whoa.
What the fuck?
And it goes straight across it. So like you could I actually clipped it to send it to a friend of ours, but like you can cut it like right before it's like crossing. Yeah, right before it crosses the buildings, and it looks like it's gonna.
Is this new Sesame Street?
This is old Sesame Street.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, they called it. This was a prophecy.
Jeez. Yeah, loved the president's cancer apology.
I think the president was my favorite character.
He was great. Yeah,
he was a good president.
Like the part where, the part where Tom Sizemore is like yelling at him to say politics is the cause of the world's problems, and he like can't say it. It's like causing him physical pain to say politics is the cause. It reminded me of Aaron Rodgers when they like people kept asking him if he was vaccinated against coronavirus, and he was just like, I'm immunized. And everybody's like, why do you keep saying that word instead of saying just say yes or no? And he would be like, I'm immunized.
That's so funny. There was so with the way everybody was talking the whole time, and it was just like little blurb after little blurb, just like piled on in a seemingly arbitrary order. It kind of like lessened the value of any of the Christian themes that they would bring up. Would y'all say? I mean,
oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It felt like the like Christian aspect of the film was a passing detail, and not the driving message, like not the moral of the story at all.
Which is interesting because, sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say I thought that like the seminary student was gonna have a bigger role, and that's why he was quiet for so long. And then after listening to all this, he was gonna give some like real perspective, and like that was gonna be like a major part, but it was just another car accident in passing or whatever. I don't know.
I guess. I mean, they did give him the floor a little bit toward the end. And although I would have to re-listen, I didn't fully catch it, but I did kind of think that the ending song sounded a little bit like a praise song.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought
I'll lift up my voice in worship to you or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really interesting the way that they chose to imbue a Christian narrative to this movie. Part of me wonders if like they felt like they had to make it crypto-Christian to appeal to the film's producer, but and they put his son in the movie as well. But they didn't like really hammer it all the way there, like just enough so that the producer was happy. This is just a theory. I have no idea. But it was really interesting when at one point Stephen Baldwin is like, I can't remember the exact line, but someone's basically like, Jesus was a phony. And then it goes like ding, ding, ding. And like 30 points is like added to the score count.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like he was really aiming for like a wider release. Like maybe they thought that, having an overtly Christian message would limit the release when they're saying such profound things. Like, this is just my personal theory, is that like when they were making this movie, they really thought that this was gonna be like a movie that caused basically Occupy Wall Street to happen.
Right. Yeah.
But and so like the Christianity messages are a little more vague than they would be in like suing the devil or
right. Yeah, which that one was definitely specifically aiming for like a Christian market.
Right.
Yeah, so like maybe the thought is that if you're not being overtly Christian, then you're more likely to pick up the few Christian messages that are in there and not ignore them out of your own like preconditioning.
the clergy guy, his story of how he became Christian was so funny. Yeah. Just like another copy and paste from a chain letter.
The detail about him having been a lawyer, I think, is a reflection. Tim Shea was a lawyer before he was a Christian filmmaker, so that kind of makes sense. That little detail was like, oh, that's interesting.
Did he also push down a blind man in a fit of insane rage? So the genius Jacob, who is a seminary student, was formerly an atheist lawyer, and he found God because he said one day he was working for a very powerful law firm, and he was the most successful employee there. He had become partner at the age of 28, and he threw it all away because one day he was outside looking at his cell phone, and someone bumped into him, causing him to drop his phone and breaking it, and the person kept walking. So in a fit of rage, he ran over and shoved the guy to the ground. And upon doing so, he discovered that the man was blind, and he couldn't believe what happened. And the blind man said he was sorry for knocking his phone over, and that's what caused this guy to become a seminary student.
Dope.
Which it felt so much like the God's not dead story of like dropping the pencil in class or whatever.
Right. Yeah, this type of like spiritual activism that's based on like a very mundane like life detail. I mean, I don't know. I guess pushing a blind man is like more than mundane, but just like this like strange sort of like earthly interaction that takes on like a huge spiritual meaning for you. I mean, even just how like all the moral messages in this movie were tied to consumer objects. Like one could argue just because like that's easier for us to understand, but I mean, I think that that's representative of just like how shallow all the views were in this movie. Like someone being like, oh yeah, like getting your car dinged, like that's like the evil of the world, or toners and like going to the mechanic and the parts are more expensive nowadays.
It's funny that the whole like premise of the movie is based around getting like the people with the highest IQ, because like IQ really has nothing to do with how smart of a person you are.
Right.
And which is just made all the more evident by the characters in this movie.
It is 2006 though. So I feel like people would have thought about it differently at the time of what IQ means.
I feel like still to this day, IQ is like, you just don't hear about it as much.
Yeah.
People don't want you to know. They quietly canceled IQ.
IQ was really having a moment though in the 90s and 2000s though, right?
I feel like, I heard about it a lot then.
Yeah. Like what do they actually ask you on an IQ test?
What would you do if you were a dictator? Things like that. When they did ask, what would you do if you were a dictator? He said he would get rid of Christianity.
And it was like, ding, 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 ding.
I like that. The movie was just so like generic in its political discourse too. Like, why are there no good dictators? And then they show like Fidel Castro and Hitler.
Yeah, like in the same
those are the only two dictators, and it's also like two very different rulers.
I think Mao was in there too.
Oh yeah,
cool.
This is so funny, and not to get off topic right now, but the part where he yells, "We should kill whoever invented the lawsuit."
So dope.
What did that mean?
And he just goes on like a rant of like, I'm pretty sure that my like middle school history teacher had the same rant.
Yeah.
About like, oh yeah, so you get a cup of coffee poured on you at McDonald's and you want to sue the place.
Right.
Like the only lawsuits that exist are like fraudulently filed by disgruntled consumers.
Right. I mean, what more is to be said about like the Christian message in this movie? Like, I feel like it's a little tough to pin down, maybe just because it wasn't fully developed. But you know, what did they conclude?
Well, there were a couple things that came up. One is the seminary student doing the classic Jesus was either a liar, a lunatic, or he was telling the truth bit.
Jesus Christ was a good teacher, but he was far from God.
Then he was lying because he said that he was the Son of God, not just a good teacher. He was either a liar, a lunatic, or he was telling the truth. And I believe he was telling the truth.
Julia, do you believe in God?
I remember a photo of a woman holding her dead baby after the tsunami. If there is a God, how could he allow such a thing?
And then they don't really like follow up on that very well.
Yeah.
Initially, but then the scientist says, like basically that, do you know the odds that we even exist? There has to be a God. And it just says like, because there's, I forget how many planets she says, but she's like, if we were like a mile further from the sun, life would be uninhabitable here. And I don't know. It's kind of a weird argument to like say the odds like that, because especially when you're talking about space, like I just looked up how many planets there are in the universe and how many stars, and it's like, I don't know, life doesn't seem that unlikely, and I don't think it like particularly like denies like the existence of God because of that.
Is nonillion an actual amount?
I was curious about that myself.
Because she said that the last detail was like odds are 1 in a 10 nonillion.
It is a real number.
Is it?
Yeah,
But
one
like,
followed
feels
by 30
stupid.
zeros, but it's really just a number that a dumb person puts in a script to make something seem smart.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, yeah, how
Right.
do you calculate the odds of that? Like,
Yeah.
you know, if we rolled the dice 1 nonillion times, then the universe would be the way it is now.
It's just weird to think that's your reasoning. It's not like anything like an emotional connection,
Right.
Or like, I don't know.
We love it. Yeah, you know, God, we believe God, you know, we can see evidence of his creation all around. They stopped short of doing the whole like, can you see the wind argument, but it was like right about to be there. Why a seminary student for both this and 3, you know? Like something about the humble seminary student, not even a pastor. You know, a seminary student, like one in pursuit of Christian truth, I suppose.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a hard question to answer because it does seem like wouldn't there be somebody who could probably be a better defender of Christianity in the film than someone who's just like learning about it?
Yeah.
He even says like I'm just trying to learn about God, or I'm trying to get closer to God. I think he quotes scripture once,
Right.
And then somebody else quotes something they say is in the Bible that I don't recall being in the Bible at all. I wish I could remember the line. 'Cause it was like, that doesn't sound right at all to me. What's your translation like?
But yeah, you know, in the movie 3, if I'm not mistaken, the main character of that movie said he was a seminary student basically because he, I believe, was like awarded a lot of damages in some kind of accident that killed his parents. So he basically had the time and money to pursue seminary. Like, I think there's something that these movies want to show, like, they don't want to go all the way and say it was like a pastor or a priest who had this knowledge, because like maybe to them that would be someone who's like lost in the sauce a little too much. But like, if you're just like a rich person or, you know, whatever, someone who just like, well, I don't even really care what comes of this, I'm just here studying the truth. And like, I feel like maybe according to the writers of these movies, that gives you a more like objective view or something. I don't know.
But at least in 3, like that part of his character played into the movie. Like the fact that he was doing research and was enthusiastic about studying the Bible totally played into helping figure out the riddles.
Right.
Whereas here, like they could have like used any of the characters' character lack of development to help them figure things out, but it was just so that they could throw out random non sequiturs.
Right. That's so true.
And about the can you see the wind thing, they did do the thing about faith in the unknown, where I think this was like right after Rory said that boredom is why Al Qaeda exists or fucking whatever. Rory's like, I'm an atheist because I just don't have faith in the unknown. And the seminary student asks, like, do you know who inspected this building? Guess you do trust the unknown, like pretty much, basically.
Dope. Extreme dopeness.
Like, how do you know this building is not going to collapse? It's like, there's a bomb connected to it. How's that even relevant at this point? Even if that was a gotcha moment.
Yeah, they did the whole atheism is a religious.
Atheism
is a religion too.
Yes.
That ruled.
Extremely swaggy.
What was with the lady that had the inhaler throwing her inhaler away at the end of the movie?
Yeah. Like you definitely still have asthma, dude. I mean,
what was supposed to have transpired there for her to be cured of her asthma?
Yeah, she like learned to like believe in herself or something. I love when shit like that happens in these movies.
She's never gonna get like overexcited again or like anxious, I guess.
Yeah, it took me like 5 seconds to realize what she'd done. Yeah, and then I was like, don't do that.
Yeah, man. Like, you know what? I gained confidence in myself. I don't need this EpiPen anymore.
Yeah. Right before she did that too, the TV announcer says the worst crisis in mankind's history is over.
Oh my God, that was
the
so
worst.
funny. Yeah, this was a very like America-centric movie.
Oh,
they were like,
absolutely.
the worst crisis was averted. The only thing we lost was whoever lived on Paginas Island.
Yeah, they actually
An
detonated
entire
a bomb
island
there.
in the Pacific Ocean was blown up. But we don't care about that. Also,
Like,
am I
nuclear
ignorant
bombs
or
have gone off before?
Am I ignorant, or is there no such thing as Paginas Island? I could not find this for the life
I just
of me.
Googled it and I can't find anything about it.
I apologize if any of our listeners are from or know somebody from Paginas Island, but I can't figure out how to spell this correctly or if this even exists.
It's been they tried to delete it from the history book since 2006.
Right.
That's true.
It's been erased.
If they did make up that name, though, could they have picked a worse name for a fictional island?
I can picture a tweet right now of somebody just saying, "Just learned about Paginas Island. Can't stop thinking about it."
Y'all, we need to talk about Paginas Island.
We should upload drone footage of an island and say it's Paginas Island.
We should upload the drone footage of Jeffrey Epstein's island.
This is what Tom Sizemore saved us from.
That's right.
Any other standout moments, favorite parts in the Genius Club? I mean, an unending supply of good lines, so hard to fit them all in. But anything we should cover before we give it our final rating?
It was pretty cool when the president asked Brian, do you think the world's problems can be solved? And Brian said, "Yes, Mr. President, I do." And then he said, "Boys, we've got work to do."
My God.
So swaggy.
He's going to be a serious
swagged
president now.
Unbelievably swagged out. Spoiler alert for anyone who wants to listen. I mean, these are the two big mysterious reveals of the movie. One, the password to defuse the bomb is "Who am I?" Two, for some reason, the counterterrorism agent who is supervising the whole meeting is actually the son of the terrorist. He finds him and he's like, "Dad."
I was wondering about that with him calling him
totally
dad.
Missed that.
What
was the purpose of that?
Yeah,
that twist. What were we supposed to gain from that being a material detail?
Extremely gay. It was
that was my thought. I heard him call the agent son. I was like, oh, maybe he's just doing it in that like avuncular way that people do,
right?
And then he calls him dad, and I was like, oh, come on,
so stupid.
Why? What did that change?
Like, wouldn't it come up in the room earlier? Like, I don't know. It seems strange.
I love that. Like,
strange.
I love that bad writer trope of just like suddenly introducing a detail and being like, "Whoa." It's like, all right. Why would I have known that? Why does that change anything I just saw? No.
Especially since he was dying as this revelation occurred. This wasn't going to change either of their experiences during this movie.
Absolutely not.
That was baffling. Really bizarre. And the way that they do this, like Breakfast Club, like walking away into the distance for each one of the characters while they're all like staring longingly at each other and getting into separate black SUVs.
Craziest summer ever.
Yeah.
We loved it. The Genius Club. I would say the perfect viewing for your Christmas Eve. Granted, by the time you're listening to this, it's probably past Christmas Eve in your area. But this is our official Christmas episode of Boys Bible Study this year. And it was delightful to watch The Genius Club with our special guest, Trans Regret Snoopy. So thank you, Snoopy, for joining us. But before we go, we should give this movie the official Boys Bible Study rating. Guys, Snoopy, what do we think? What can we attribute to the legacy of this film?
It was confusing. It was. It felt pointless at times. It was very funny, and I loved it. So, the rating I would give it is 1,020 imaginary points out of 1,020 imaginary points.
Oh man, perfect score. Also, it was so cool and swagged out that he gave them all the points in the end. He gave them more than the amount of points. Like, it was just such a fucking, like, we didn't even get to talk about like how much of an ego game it was. Like they basically, if an insane person does this to you and is like, I'll let you go if you score 1,000 points, like you just say things to flatter him the whole time until like, he just agrees with you and then lets you go. It's like super easy.
Instead, there's constantly characters being like, well, fuck this, I'm out of here, basically. I'm like, who do you think you are, buddy? Like, just this guy's crazy and has a nuclear bomb.
What are we going to do? We don't have enough points.
I love the idea. Also, the idea that Stephen Baldwin's character was like, oh, so this thing's going to. Wait, what does he say? Something about like, this bomb will kill everybody in Washington, D.C. And the guy's like, does that include the politicians? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, so what's the problem here? As if nobody except for politicians lives in Washington, D.C.
Right.
Pretty inconsiderate.
I mean, this is the same guy who said we should neuter all the poor people. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
True.
He's the bad boy. The
I like
chess-playing
that
bad boy.
He had like groupies or a crew that watched him play chess in the beginning.
Oh, the fact that like chess is like a smart person game is so fucking funny. It's like it's literally like getting good at any game. It's impressive if you're very good at it, but it's like I can watch someone play Smash Brothers very well and get like the same type of feeling, you know?
But I don't get it. I'm the 2-time World Smash Brothers tournament champion, and you're just a pizza delivery guy.
And you beat me in 5 moves? So stupid.
This was amazing. This was a perfect movie in my book. Gripping from beginning to end. I got to give this one 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs at night.
I loved this completely. I need to watch everything Timothy Chase has made now and is going to make. He's been busier than ever, it seems. This is the Tom Sizemore movie. I am a big fan of all of his bit parts, especially in the movie I Believe and the movie Adrenochrome. They're both insane. Highly recommend. I am going to have to give this 5 out of 5 wives who died of cancer or car accidents, because there were definitely at least 5 of those in this movie, which I think is a new record.
Yeah, it was really amazing how each person kept fucking introducing the one new, like when fucking at the end Stephen Baldwin's like, yeah, my mom got hit by a car at a gas station. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, no, she did not.
I know. That's probably the most Christian thing about this movie, is that everyone has cancer or is in a car accident.
Absolutely. Dude, honestly, not a good sell for Christianity, if you ask me. You know, as for me, I thought this movie was delightful in every way. It was just a nonstop source of amazing, words of wisdom. I learned a lot from the politics of this movie. It really radicalized me. I enjoyed how Tom Sizemore would just like scream like Beetlejuice, either in happiness or despair whenever he agreed or disagreed with something. I'm going to have to give this movie 8 out of 8 slices of pizza, because it was a tour de force that reinvigorated my faith as well as stimulated my senses. A banger from the genius Tim Che. We've watched one of his films before, Suing the Devil. We will be watching more in the near future. Snoopy, thank you so much for joining us on this very special Christmas episode.
Well, thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
It was great. So nice to have you. If you could please tell all the people where they can follow you and how they can check out Trans Regret Snoopy Presents the Bible.
Sure. Yeah, I'm primarily on Twitter at My Inverted Penis, and my podcast Trans Regret Snoopy Presents the Bible is available where all fine podcasts are available, and we release an episode every week. One is a free episode on the main stream, and we alternate weeks with bonus episodes for Patreon members. Our Patreon is patreon.com/transregretsnoopy. And for $5 a month, you get 2 bonus episodes a month, and we do a weekly Bible study on our Discord, and we do a monthly movie night as well. Usually Christian movies, sometimes it's so far it's been everything from a sorbo to a documentary. So
nice.
It's a really, really fun community that I participate in as well. So I would love to have listeners of Boys Bible Study check out Trans Regret Snoopy. Really one of my favorite podcasts. Just very interesting and stimulating discussions on scripture that I would say you do not at all have to be Christian to get something out of. It's fun to listen to. And you've had guests on, one of my favorite guests you ever had on was Jamie Stewart of Shushu. I thought that was like a really cool get. I think it's a great show. I hope everyone listens. So thank you, Snoopy. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Of course. Yeah, anytime.
On the Boys Bible Study side of things, first of all, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of our beloved listeners. It's been almost 2 years of us doing the show, and we're going to do our 2-year recap coming up in January, so look for that. But we're very grateful to all of you who've supported us, either recently or from the beginning, especially to our generous patrons. If you want to unlock extra episodes of Boys Bible Study, go to patreon.com/Boys Bible Study and subscribe for $5 a month or more to get Christian movie content every single week. Shout out especially to our patrons on the $20 tier. We can't thank you enough for your generous support. Shout outs to Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Jane, Kara. Thank you again. We really couldn't do it without you. Our outro music
I think paywalls are what's wrong with the world.
These podcasters are lazy.
You work hard. You work long and hard to listen to your favorite podcasts only to find out they're releasing episodes that you can't access. They're giving shout outs to the 1%ers.
Flashback to one of the guys like verbally threatening one of the members of Crooked Media, like holding him up by the shirt collar and being be like, you let me into all of your content. Our outro music is Oh My God by Mary. From all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-hosts, Scott and Julian, our special guest today, Trans Regret Snoopy, we would like to say, peace be with you.
And also with you.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day